Hello, good morning, everyone. Let's go ahead and do the test review. Please bear with me. I'm still pretty sick, so my voice is a little bit different than usual. So today is the lab quiz. Please make sure you do that before the end of the day. And Friday is going to be the unit test. For the lab quiz is going to be lecture 5, 6, 7, and 8. But for the test is only 6, 7, and 8. Let's go ahead and fill in the review package. This is posted on Luminate. If you haven't already downloaded a copy, you will be able to find it there. Mm. So complete the following table related to brain structure and their function. The first one is thalamus. So the main function of thalamus is to filter sensory information. Um, except except for smell. So smell goes directly to the temporal lobe, but everything else will pass through the thalamus, and they are going to be a filter for importance and relevance. If something is not important at the moment, then the thalamus will screen it out, and you will not be, perceiving it. I know this as functions, but other things you should know about the thalamus includes the following. It forms the sides of the third ventricle, and the thalamus is also a mass of gray matter. So gray matter is for processing of information, which is what you would expect if you were filtering information, whereas white matter is more for transmitting information, right? Okay, next we have the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus, the main function is to maintain homeostasis through hormones. And that's all we've learned. Okay. What kind of homeostasis are we talking about? Like e.g. body temperature, water salt balance, so on and so forth. And the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland actually works very closely together, and also through hormonal regulation, they help maintain homeostasis. So like these two are pretty much for now you can think of it as the same function. Okay. Next we have hippocampus. Hippocampus is storage or long-term memory. Long-term memory. Next we have amygdala. Amygdala is for emotions, sadness, anger, um, happy. These are all coming from the amygdala. Now, I do want to point out that the um, the thalamus here, the hypothalamus, the hippocampus, and the amygdala, these are all components of the limbic system. You can think of the limbic system as like the reward system of the body. When you do certain things that makes you feel good, the limbic system would reinforce it with positive feelings, and it would create positive memory for it, and you will want to do it again in the future. But if you are in a dangerous situation, then the limbic system would create a negative feeling. You will still remember it for the next time, but you'll remember it for the wrong for a different reason, right? You'll remember not to do this again because last time it didn't feel so good. Okay, so these reward patterns in the limbic system will ultimately help us create instincts that would steer us towards um, favorable situations and stay away from dangerous ones that might potentially harm our well-being. Okay, moving on, we have the medulla oblongata, which, as you know, is part of the brainstem, and it contains respiratory center. Also help um, regulate heartbeat, specifically the strength of the heartbeat. Um, the medulla oblongata also contains reflex center for swallowing, sneezing, coughing, and vomiting. In addition, sorry, in addition, the medulla oblongata, 90% of tracks cross the midline at this location. Just random stuff that comes to my mind. This is part of brainstem. That's what you should do when you're studying, okay? Just like write down whatever comes to your mind when you see these terms and compare it with your notes, see what you missed, and add them on slowly, a little bit at a time. Talking about the brainstem, what are the two other parts of the brainstem? Anybody remember? That's right, there's the pons. Pons. Below the pons, you have the midbrain, and then you have the medulla oblongata. And maybe one more thing that just comes to my mind, the medulla oblongata will exit at the base of the skull to become the spinal cord. All right, next part. Reticular formation. It is gray matter. Gray matter. It's a web of gray matter, and it basically maintain maintain alertness by sending sensory signals to arouse the cerebral cortex. Uh, the reticular formation is also the thing that will wake you up while asleep. There's some kind of emergency situation that requires your attention or some kind of thing that startle you. You wake up because of the reticular formation. If this thing is damaged, you might not wake up. You might have a coma. Next, we have the corpus callosum. Corpus callosum is white matter, and the main function of the corpus callosum is to enable communication. Allows communication between the hemispheres. If the left side of the brain wants to communicate with the right side of the brain, it needs to go through the corpus callosum. Again, random stuff that comes to my mind. Corpus callosum is above the lateral ventricle. Remember, it's like going from the front to the back, that band that you always see, and then below it, this is the lateral ventricle, right? At least it's like the entrance to it, anyways. All right, cerebellum is like the little brain that's located at the back, and the function is to maintain balance and posture. Um, it is to help store skill memories, skill, or people say motor memories, e.g., riding a bike. Factual stuff are stored in the hippocampus, as we mentioned earlier. And these are very resilient types of memory. You don't forget. What else do we have? The cerebellum works with the primary motor cortex and the frontal cortex to execute uh, motion smoothly. You're able to have smooth coordination. Whatever you're trying to do, try to walk from point A to point B. You plan your route and then you execute the command smoothly, seamlessly. I think that's probably a better word. Pons. Pons means bridge. Basically, is like the relay point for multiple pathways connecting various brain structure. Right? If the cerebellum needs to communicate with the frontal lobe, it's gonna have to go through the pons. Right? We have ascending paths that are coming up from the spinal cord, going to the thalamus. It's gonna have to go through the pons. It's a relay station. In addition to being a relay station, the pons also contains various reflex center for visual, auditory, and tactile. Tactile just means touch reflexes. Okay. Next, we have the choroplexus. Choroplexus, they are found in each ventricle of the brain. They are vascularized. Vascularized means they have blood vessels and contains ependymal cells, which is a type of glial cells that make cerebrospinal fluid. Choroplexus. Of course, there are more brain parts. If it's not on the list, feel free to add it on, add it onto it, and of course, right, remember them. Okay, moving on. What's next? Complete the following chart for the key functional areas of the brain. We have the primary motor cortex. So there might be questions where I'll ask you to click on an image. It's like identify the primary motor cortex, then you have to know where it is, right? So for primary motor cortex, it is right here in front of the central sulcus. Okay, if you do have to click, don't worry. The correct area is gonna be the whole strip. Like some people worry, like, oh, do I click here? Do I click here? Like where do I click? Like it's gonna be a well-defined area. Okay, it's not a single point that gets you the score. Okay, it's like a whole region. If you click within the region I've defined, then you are okay. So this is the primary motor cortex, and the function of primary motor cortex is to enable voluntary control of skeletal muscle. Anything you can move at will is skeletal muscle. Things that you cannot control, like your bowel movement, that is smooth muscles, right? Talked about smooth muscle on Monday when we learned the digestive system. Of course, the primary cortex is separated into different uh, zones, different areas for the body. Right? You might remember like face is here, hand is here, so on and so forth, right? Also remember uh, the left primary motor cortex controls the right half of the body and vice versa. So this is part of the frontal lobe, okay? It's located at the back of the frontal lobe. Next one, we have the primary somatosensory cortex. Again, you have the central sulcus right there. That's always going to be your landmark. Central sulcus. And this is going to be our parietal lobe, roughly. And at the front of the parietal lobe, you are going to find the primary somatosensory cortex right there. And what does it do? It is going to process somatosensory information from skin, muscle, and joint, actually. Can we tell which half the brain is? Yeah, okay, sure. So this one is the left half. You can tell by looking at the location of the cerebellum. That's this thing at the back is the cerebellum, right? Cerebellum is always at the back, and we're looking at it from the side, so that makes this the left half. So what kind of somatosensory information are we talking about? Touch, pressure, temperature, pain, texture, everything you can feel with your skin. Next, we have Broca's area, and Broca's area is located in the frontal lobe. There's your frontal lobe. Broca's area is around here. Um, Generally, for most people, on the left hemisphere. Okay? You don't have symmetrical distribution of these areas sometimes in the brain. Okay? You might have heard people say, they're right-brained or left-brained, and meaning some people are like more artistically gifted than others because the brain is not uniform. Okay, some half is going to perform certain tasks than others. In any case, the Broca's area is going to be found in the left hemisphere for most people, and what it does is it enables production of articulate speech. Damage can lead to Broca's aphasia, which is when the person they can talk, they can speak, but it's gonna be like jumbled up, wrong word in the wrong context. By the way, I forget to mention over here for the primary somatosensory cortex, um, I should also say that it is from skin, muscle, and joints on the opposite side of the body. Okay. Basically, this allows you to feel, and this allows you to move. Next, we have the Wernicke area. Wernicke area is going to be part of the temporal lobe right here. And you will find it over there. So this allows you to understand understand speech and written communication. Damage. Yeah, I'll post the notes, okay? Yeah, don't worry. It's gonna be on Illuminate, okay? Damage can lead to damage can lead to um, Wernicke aphasia. So Broca's area, so Broca's aphasia, sometimes it's called expressive aphasia because you have trouble expressing yourself, whereas Wernicke's aphasia is receptive aphasia. You have trouble receiving communication. Okay? You don't understand what people are saying to you. All right. Are we okay so far, guys? Right. Thank you. Describe the anatomy of the spinal cord. We can do that quickly. So as you know, we have a slice of spinal cord here, and we have the gray matter in the middle, which are not really gray as you probably saw before. It's more like brownish color, but it's gray matter. And it's gray matter right here. Um, white matter. This is gray matter. Okay, I should mention you would have higher percentage for sections higher up in the spinal cord. So if you think about this, like this is the brain and this is spinal cord, we have the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and then this is coccygeal and sacral. Okay? So the higher up you are, you're gonna have more white matter percent. Higher. We should say higher, not necessarily like more. It is more, but it's also higher percentage. Higher percent of white matter, right? I'm just gonna move the guy a little bit to the right. Now, in the middle of it all, we have a tiny hole. That is the central canal. It carries CSF to the caudal It brings it all the way down to the ponytail portion of the spinal cord, and it exits at the bottom. From the fourth ventricle all the way down, right? Carries all the way down to the ponytails right there. The CSF is going to be on the middle. Okay, and then it's going to come back up through the sides, right? Now this is the front. Okay, front is called ventral. That's the side of the tummy, and that's the back, which is dorsal. Couple other things located inside the gray matter is going to be this interneuron right here. And the interneuron is only found inside the central nervous system, right? The brain or the spinal cord. And what it does is it does integration for us. It processes sensory information and determine the appropriate motor output. So here we go. We have the sensory information coming in. I think we used blue before, right? There we go. Sensory information coming in at the back. This is a sensory neuron carrying various senses. If it's coming from your hand, then it's going to be somatosensory senses. If it's coming from um, your tongue, then it's going to be perhaps gustatory information like taste, right? Um, Not so much like visual and auditory, because visual and auditory, the eyes and the ears are already close to the brain. There's no spinal cord up there, right? So they would just go directly to the thalamus. But you know, everything else that is from the body, it's gonna go through the spinal cord. And then there is gonna be a motor neuron that's coming out from the front. And these things are actually strapped together to form the spinal nerve. Okay, so these spinal nerves will be coming out like this. Spinal nerves. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Just give me a second. Okay, but that's not all. As the sensory information is coming in, it gets processed by the interneuron, but this is going to go up, right? It's going to go up at the back, right? And you have multiple ones coming in, maybe from a lower section, and they all bundle up and they go up to the brain. And this here is the ascending ascending track. A track is just a bundle of axon within the central nervous system. So where does it go? Okay, my diagram is kind of breaking off here. I'm just going to continue here. Okay, so they're going to keep on going up, ascending track, and then eventually they will cross the middle. They will cross the middle at the medulla oblongata. And then they will continue to go up, continue to go up, and it will hit the thalamus. Okay? And then the thalamus will filter some of these information, and then it will send it to the appropriate location. Let's say these are somatosensory information, then they will go to somatosensory cortex. Okay. So, spinal cord is the information highway. Take all this stuff up, and then ultimately it always ends up on the cerebral cortex. That's the final destination of sensory information, right? Now, um, if actions are required, that's going to come from the primary motor cortex, and information will be coming down the spinal cord at the front. okay, at the front. So these are descending, descending track. Okay, so this basically answer both question 3 and 4. After you touch, the information goes up to the brain for higher level processing, but at the same time, you would have you would have the reflex going on uh, at the spinal cord level. All right, moving on. Label the indicator part. So this one, I mean, you should know, right? This is the corpus callosum, communication between two halves of the brain. Um, so I might ask you to identify it on the test. I might ask you to click on the corpus callosum. I might ask you what happened if the indicator structure is damaged, right? So various ways to question you. Okay, this one, it's a different brain. We're looking at this bulge structure. That would be the pons. Okay. Um, while we are at it, the pons is right here, part of the midbrain, and then this here at the back is the cerebellum. So if I ask you what is between the pons and the cerebellum, what is that?
Fourth ventricle.
That's right. That's a fourth ventricle. Thank you. Yeah, if you have questions in the lab slide, we can take them up as well. Okay. After this, which of the following is not a function of the indicator part? So that's the indicator part, right? And we know that's the cerebellum. So it stores motor skills. We wrote it down, right? Allows smooth execution of motion, maintain balance and posture, maintain alertness and consciousness. That's not it. Okay, this is more of like the reticular formation, right? You should know this by now. I've been mentioning it over and over again to help you remember it, and hopefully, you know it is the primary motor cortex. How about this? Anybody know what this might be? Yep, that is the thalamus. Very good. They receive sensory information and filter them, except for smell. They identify the indicator parts. Yep, this is the durovenous sinus, which is for CSF drainage. CSF drainage. Okay? It's formed from the two layers of dura mater separating, and the space between them will become durovenous sinus. Over here, Broca's area. Yeah, very good, very good. Damage to the indicated area is likely to result in. So I highlight there are two parts here. There is the central sulcus, and the arrow is clearly pointing at that, the one that's like behind the central sulcus. So is going to be unable to feel the right side of the body because this is the left half, right? It's not the movement, okay? Because the arrow is only pointing at this piece, right? Okay. Uh, it's not like pointing at the other one as well. All right, so that's that. I guess I can understand why it could be confusing because it looks like I'm highlighting the whole thing, But don't worry, on the test it'll be clear. Okay, like on the test, it will either be like the only the back one is highlighted or the front is highlighted. It's not gonna appear like that. Okay, a bunch of conditions. Let's go through them. I need a moment, guys. Okay, just like I need to get some more water. Um, give me 2 minutes, okay? I'll be right back. Okay, let's keep going. Hydrocephalus. The main problem is a blockage. Oh yeah, thank you. I'll just copy your answer, please. Excess CSF production and or blockage of CSF drainage. Okay, if you can't drain them, it builds up in the brain, builds up the ventricles, start pushing on the tissues around the ventricles. It's gonna be a problem. Meningitis is the inflammation of the meninges. Okay? Of course, you have three layers of the meninges. Again, just like random stuff that comes to mind as you're studying, right? We have the dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater, right? All right, next one, glaucoma, not related to the brain, but the eye this time. This is excess what? What's too much this time? Hmm. Excess eye pressure, and it damages the optic nerve. There are no treatment to cure it, but there are interventions to slow the progression. If they give you eye drops, the eye drops is going to help lower the eye pressure. And it might reduce the production of the aqueous humor, for example. Astigmatism, that's an uneven lens leading to multiple uh, focal points. Multiple focal points. or light rays entering the eyes. That makes it difficult to see in at night. Okay, bright lights at night, like traffic lights and that kind of stuff. It's all scattering. Presbyopia. Presbyopia is um. There's another question. Oh, no, the eye is shaped differently for farsighted and nearsightedness. Okay, it's like getting too long or too short. But for astigmatism, it's mostly the problem at the lens level. Yeah. Presbyopia is failure, failure for eyes to visual to perform, I guess, perform visual accommodation. Okay, so visual accommodation is to change the shape of the lens to maintain focus. As we shift our focus between far away and nearby. So when we get older, um, we the basically the suspensory ligament loses their elasticity, and it makes it harder to change the lens shape quick enough. There's another question about how can we tell the left half and the right half. This seems to be a common situation. Let me try to show the um one second, guys. I'm losing my train of thoughts here. Try to show you the 3D model. There are two things you need to know to orient yourself. Let me find the brain here, guys. First question to ask yourself is when you look at a brain picture, you have to ask yourself, is the brain cut open or not cut open? So look at this. Is it cut open? I hope you know it's cut open, right? Okay, so once you know it's cut open, you find the cerebellum. The cerebellum is right here at the back. Since it's cut open, we are looking at the middle of the brain. If I rotate it, maybe it will help a little bit. This is the back of the brain with the cerebellum here. So if it's cut open and the cerebellum is at the back, this is the right half of the brain. Just imagine rotating it. Look, I'm looking at this at the back. This is like if you imagine lining up to pick up coffee or something. You're looking at the brain of the person in front of you. You will see their cerebellum. Okay, and then this is the middle. Now, same brain, but this time the cerebellum is at the left, and the brain is not cut open. We are looking at the side of the brain. If you're looking at the side of the brain, and then the back is on the left, then this is going to be the right half, right? So I think if you're having trouble, play around with this model, rotate it just from side to side and see what it appears to be. Okay. Third ventricle. Sure, sure. Third ventricle is right here. This is third ventricle. I can isolate for you. There it is. Right. Very thin, on each side of the third ventricle is going to be the thalamus. See, I delete the third ventricle. This ball right here, that's the thalamus. Okay. So imagine the room you're in right now, the space you're sitting in right now. That's the third ventricle. It's a chamber, right? It's filled with CSF. The wall on your right and the wall on your left, that's where the thalamus will be. Does that make sense? Again, you are sitting in the thalamus right now, assuming you're in a room, okay? The right wall and the left wall would be the right and the left thalamus. Part of the floor is going to be the hypothalamus, okay? And the midbrain. Um, yeah, I guess you can say they're side by side, but really, mm, like I'm not gonna point to this on the test and ask you what it is, okay? Because like you don't know if I'm pointing at the third ventricle or if I'm pointing at the thalamus, right? Um, I think it's important to understand. I don't know. I don't know if, yeah, I guess you can say side by side, okay? But a better way of thinking about it is the third ventricle is the space. It's the space between the two um, thalamus that you have. Okay, so third ventricle is right here, right here. This whole thing is the third ventricle. It's just a gap, right? It's just a gap. This is space in front of the thalamus right there. Uh, okay, let me see. Yeah, I'll turn on my camera for a second. I look like crap, but that's why I did turn on. But I have to show you this to help you understand. All right, where is okay, over here, right? Like this box right here. This box, the back of the box, that's the thalamus, okay? The space in front of the box, that's the third ventricle. Is that a little bit better? Do you understand? Okay. So are we okay now with the brain telling whether it's left or right? Okay, you want to see if it's cut open or not cut open. Uh, and then you have to look at the location of the cerebellum. Um, Piece, is that better? Or you want me to elaborate again with another picture?
I understand, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. Floaters, okay? Floaters are basically debris floating in virtuous humor. Okay? It's something that you can see in your virtuous humor. It's something that you would be able to see in your field of view, in your vision. They don't really go away. There's nothing much you can do about it. If it gets really, really bad, they might give you eye drops to break down the fragments into smaller pieces. Cataracts is problem with the lens, so clouding of the lens. Eventually, it will turn completely white, opaque, and no light will be able to pass through. Can't see. But you can do surgery to get a new lens. Myopia, eyeball is too long. There's a question, how does presbyopia is corrected? You get reading glasses. Okay. Even if you go to Dollarama, sometimes they have a whole rack of reading glasses. You can just like prescribe it yourself. You basically put them on and see which one allows you to read a book easier now. But you can get it properly prescribed at the eye doctor as well. Eyeball is too long. Need diverging lens. glasses. Hyperopia is eyeball is too short. And you need converging lens. The explanation of how these lens corrects the problem was discussed in lecture 6, 7 actually, lecture 7. So you can go revisit those if need to be. Okay, let's take a look at number 14. Trace out all the structures. Maybe it's better if I do it with a diagram. Um, that way you can see it as it's happening. Okay, so there's the eyeball, and we have the front here. Light is going to be coming from the left side. First thing is going to hit is the cornea. Remember, cornea is the most anterior portion of the eyeball, and the shape allows you to collect light from a wider angle. It's like the security mirror in a convenience store, right? I keep on saying that. So write down if you can. I cannot write on the screen, right? So the first thing is cornea. After the cornea, the light is going to pass through the liquid in this portion. That is the aqueous humor. Aqueous humor. And maybe I'll type it in the um, chat box for you. Cornea first, and then aqueous humor. And then after the aqueous humor is going to go through the pupil. Pupil is the opening right here. That's controlled by the iris. The iris is the entire color part of the eye, right? It's actually muscle. If it contracts, then the pupil gets smaller. If it relaxes, the pupil gets bigger, right? After the pupil, it's going to go through the lens. And then from the lens, the light ray will get bent together, will get focused. And the light will pass through this liquid right here, which, as you know, is the vitreous humor. I know they call it the body here, but it's vitreous humor. And then the light ray is going to fall onto the fovea, which is located on the retina. Okay, that's pretty much it. Now, they did not mention the macular, but yeah, this is the fovea and the macula. I guess you can kind of see it maybe. I don't know if that's on purpose. Let me delete the vitreous humor here. No, probably not on purpose. That's the fovea, but around the fovea, there is the macular. So you will produce sharp image in the macular, macula, and within the macula, the fovea creates the sharpest image. All right. Other things in the eye that we should probably mention, we have the choroid and the sclera. And at the back, where the optic nerve is exiting, that's where you will have the optic discs or the blind spot. Okay, trace out the neuronal pathway for transmitting visual information from the eye to the brain. We did that before, but maybe let me, should I do it from, you know what, let's do it from scratch. That way you will have a chance to draw it out as well, and maybe it'll help you. And that's where, like you on the test, if you try to answer the questions, you might need to sketch it out with the rough paper, right? When I say rough paper, I mean blank paper, right? Like not paper with stuff on it. So this is the eyeball, and then this is the other eyeball, right? So just you can practice drawing these things. It will help you answer the questions on the test. I forgot what color I use in class, but let's say this is the left FOV. So left FOV, yeah, but did I use red for left or blue for red? I don't remember. The left FOV is going to enter the right half of the eye because light travels straight. Okay. Now, if you're confused on the test, this is how you remember. You know how I keep on telling you the right side of the body is gonna control and receive information from the left side of the body? But that's just like most of the time. It's not for every situation. For the eye, both eyes will send information to both half of the brain. But to help you remember this, the left field will end up on the right half of the brain. Okay, so even though both eyeballs send information to both sides of the brain, the entire left field ends up on the right occipital lobe, and the entire right field ends up on the left occipital lobe. Okay, you don't have to copy that now. I'll post this later, but that's gonna help you think about how to draw this. Okay? This is the left side, so everything is gonna end up here on the right brain, right occipital. So how do we get there? Well, this eye is gonna have the optic nerve is gonna go towards the middle, but it's already on the right half. So this path is not gonna cross. It's just gonna stay on the right side. This eye though, it's on the left side, carrying left field information. So when it gets to the optic chiasma, it's gonna have to cross the middle. And then it's gonna be like that. So if you remember left field ends up on the right side, then it's very clear which path is going to cross. Similarly, if you have the right FOV, this stuff is gonna end up on the left half of the eyeball. But as I told you, right field, the entire right field, is gonna end up on the left occipital lobe. So if you're already on the left side, you don't need to cross the midline, you just continue on. But if you're on the right side, you have to cross the middle and go to the other side. The location where they're crossing is called the optic chiasma. Before the crossing point, we are out of the brain, outside of CNS. That's why these are called nerves, optic nerves. Once we cross the optic chiasma, we are inside of CNS. So we call them optic tracts. Okay. Of course, I didn't put in the thalamus here, but you know it's there. We don't process everything that we see. Okay. Like the gorilla video I showed you, right? So that's the visual path. And you know I'm gonna ask you, what happens if you damage this? What happens if you damage that? Okay. Those questions are not easy to answer without a picture. So it's okay. You can draw it out. Just make sure that you show us your drawing in the end, okay? And that we can see your hands when you're drawing it. Do we have any questions about the eye? Okay. This is the ear. It's a different perspective than the one I gave you in the labeling book. So it's good to label things from a different perspective. This is the pinna, the ear, and the sound's gonna be coming in. It's gonna be funneled into the auditory auditory canal. Both of these are part of the external ear. External ear. We have the tympanic membrane right here. For converting movements, converting sound into movements. Sound can move things. You have to understand that, right? I don't know if you ever tried this before, but you can. If you have like like a Bluetooth speaker at home, this is just to help you visualize what's actually going on, right? If you have a Bluetooth speaker at home, you can put it in some kind of container, and then you can put um, shrink wrap on the top, and then you can just sprinkle some whatever small things you have, okay? Like little beads or rice or salt even, and then you turn on the speaker, you can see the rice moving, bouncing off on the shrink wrap. Right? So the speaker creates a sound, and then the shrink wrap is like the eardrum, and then it takes the sound and change it back into motion. That's essentially what's happening in the tympanic membrane. I should probably do that next year um, for my other class. Over here, this is the malleus, aka the hammer. We have the anvil, um, or the incus actually, and then anvil. And for the last one, we have the stapes or the stirrup. Their job is to amplify the sound and pass it into the cochlea. So this is cochlea. Can't really see it, but then pressing the stapes is pressing on the oval window, and excess pressure is relieved from the round window. Let me just look at it right there. Don't forget we have another tube here. This is the Eustachian tube for equalized pressure. With outside. Couple more things over here. We have the semicircular canal. And the vestibule, which is for detecting acceleration, speeding up, slowing down. Okay, that's the ear. Just a couple of questions for digestion. Let's go through them. Which of the following is not a function of the digestive system? Yeah, movement of nutrients to the cell. That's not really digestive system. It's just, you know, basic active transport and passive transport. Which of the following is not a function of saliva? It starts the digestion of protein. That's not correct. Okay. So protein digestion starts in stomach, right? With pepsin. Remember pepsinogen? Pepsinogen are produced by the chief cells, and it get converted into pepsin by HCl. Food that leaves the mouth enters the pharynx in the form of a bolus. Bolus is a ball of food. Chyme is in the stomach. That's the stuff we vomit out. This is not a word, it's made up. Rugae are the foldings of the stomach. Foldings in empty stomach. Gastric juices contains various stuff, HCl, pepsin, and intrinsic factor, right? Carbohydrates are first chemically digested in the mouth by amylase. This is salivary amylase. You also have pancreatic amylase. What prevents acid from backing up to the esophagus from the stomach? Remember, the stomach has two sphincters. Okay, we have one up here. This one is the cardiac sphincter, as in like over here. And then this one is the pyloric sphincter. It's the cardiac sphincter that prevents the reflux. And then this is the same diagram we labeled in the class. I'm sure you can handle it. That's it for the review sheet. Now, do you guys want me to take up the whole lab, or to make it easier for me, like do you just have specific slides you want to go through? Either way is okay. Just let me know what you prefer. Have you guys had a chance to work through the labs? Do you have specific slides? Or if you prefer, I can take up the whole thing as well. We have time. The whole thing? Yeah, okay. If you gotta do the whole thing, give me 5 minutes, okay? I'm gonna take a break. And when we return, we'll take it up, all right? If you gotta go, go. Don't worry about it. Otherwise, we'll do it. Okay, see you in 5. All right, thank you for waiting, guys. Let's take this up. Um, hmm, over here. Oh, I just got a message. Are you still there, Cheyenne? Oh, you are. Okay. No, you cannot use the PowerPoints for the quiz, right? The quiz is same type of parameters as the test. So no notes or anything like that. Okay, let's take this up. List 3 functions of A. So this is looking at the brain from the bottom, and you can tell that this is the cerebellum. So 3 functions. We did that in the class already. I'm not going to write it out again, but I'll verbally tell you one more time. It's for balance and posture, maintaining balance and posture, equilibrium, for storage of motor information, skill memory, and finally allows you to execute motion in a seamless manner. Okay. Of course, watch these videos if you haven't already. A few other interesting things you can see from this perspective. Maybe I'll just mention it as we are going through the slides. You can see that this is the pons. That's the medulla oblongata right here. And then this would be transitioning into the spinal cord. And you can see the gray matter, the butterfly in the center. If you're wondering what these white things are, they are cranial nerves. Remember, we have 12 pairs of cranial nerves that are coming out directly from the brain. Okay, let's label B. B is right here. That would be the pituitary gland. Okay, working with the hypothalamus to help maintain homeostasis. C here, we're looking at the inferior portion, the bottom portion of the frontal lobe. This here on the side, that would be the temporal lobe. And E is the medulla oblongata. I'll post this as well. So if you can copy everything, that's okay as well. Okay. In this picture, I've removed the cerebellum, I removed the pons and all that stuff. And we are left with these two cavities. That's actually the lateral ventricle. Lateral ventricles. All right. So peace, I'm gonna pick on you because since you asked the questions, okay, for no other reason. I want you to tell me which half of the brain this might be. Okay, if I may. That is the left half. That's right. You guys got it very well. Okay, this is the left half because it's not cut open, right? And then, I even take away the cerebellum and you're still able to tell it's the left half. So that's good. Okay, so what's missing at the question mark? That's the cerebellum. And what label the functional area? A and B. A is the Broca's area. You should know that by now. B is the Wernicke's area. And C is this gap that divides the frontal lobe with the temporal lobe. And that is called the lateral fissure. It's a little bit deeper than a sulcus, but it's just groove. All right, next one. Um, it's like taking this thing, but then separating the different parts, right? A again is the frontal lobe. D, you can see from this view a little bit better perhaps, is once again the lateral ventricle, the one on the left anyways. This is the insula lobe. It's a lobe that is responsible for processing gustatory information, tastes, and then C is the temporal lobe. Okay, in class there is a slide that shows there's like a prong that pries open the frontal lobe and the temporal lobe, and that reveals the insular lobe. A few other random things here: pons, medulla oblongata. Okay, midbrain. Okay, this is the medial view. It's the left half again. Cerebellum would have been here. It's asking us to identify the corpus callosum. That would be right here. White matter, allowing communication between two halves of the brain. The pineal gland is right here. I don't know if I mentioned this in class, but pineal gland is to secrete melatonin to induce sleep. Right? In a low light environment, you secrete melatonin and makes you sleepy. Do I have another slide coming? Yeah, I probably do. Okay, over here. 21. This is the third ventricle, right? Or like thalamus. And then third ventricle in front. Um, Again, I don't think I point to one of these things on the test, but if I do, I won't have both of these answers available to choose from. Yeah, like it will be clear, right? And if there's any kind of ambiguity, you can send me an email after the test and tell me to review whatever question. And it's like, oh, 23 was a little bit unclear. Can you check my answers and stuff like that? I can do that. Like I will review your quiz. That's what I mean. It's over here. That's the hypothalamus. And that's the pituitary gland. Okay? They secrete hormones to help maintain homeostasis. All right, this is just another brain. I'll quickly go through the lobes. A is frontal lobe. B is parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe, right? Standard stuff. Sensory information processed by parietal lobe is somatosensory, uh, like touch, sensation, pain, temperature. Occipital lobe is for visual, and this is for smell and hearing. Okay. It's highlight in the video. Okay, just watch it, please. Label E. E is cerebellum once again. F is the pons medulla oblongata. What kind of memory I store in E? Skill memory. Okay. If I give you a list of items and I ask you what are stored in the cerebellum, you have to know. It's all the stuff that deals with motor, typing on the keyboard, shooting a ball, that kind of stuff. Functional cortex of H and I. This is the right half of the brain. That means this is the front, this is the back, and this is the central sulcus. And which means in front of the central sulcus is the primary motor cortex for voluntary movement, and then we have the primary somatosensory cortex. One's for motor control, one's for feeling. If we open up the brain, it's the same thing again. We have the corpus callosum, communication between the two hemispheres. Lateral ventricle right here. And once again, if you see the oval with kind of like an eye in the middle, that's the thalamus. And the third ventricle will be in front of it. Thalamus is for filtering of sensory input, except for smell. Once again, C is hypothalamus. It works with the pituitary gland to maintain homeostasis. Hypothalamus is also part of the limbic system. The limbic system has hippocampus, hypothalamus, amygdala, and thalamus. Right here, this little triangle, fourth ventricle. And as we transition into the spinal cord, on the inside of the spinal cord, we have the central canal. That's a good question. Optic chiasma is right here. It's just kind of above and in front of the pituitary gland. Okay, roughly right there. This is an actual CT view. We have corpus callosum right here. Cerebellum, pons, medulla oblongata. You can probably identify other things as well, right? This is a good picture for one of those hotspot type of question clicking stuff, right? There is the fourth ventricle, lateral ventricle, thalamus, right? You can even see the pituitary gland right here, hypothalamus, okay? Pineal gland around there. Oh, there you go. Lateral ventricle, LV, third ventricle, fourth ventricle is here, and then connecting it. This here, that's the cerebral aqueduct. Right? This is an actual CT picture, right? Of a person's brain. Okay, spinal cord. We labeled this already. I think you will be okay. It's the same drawing that we did, right? With the motor neurons coming out and then the sensory neuron going in, and then you have the interneurons, right? Just look at the pictures we drew earlier today, and you should be okay. Okay, identify two types of cells right here. So this here, this main one, that's the neuron. And then here you can't really see the whole cells, but you can kind of see the nucleus over there, the nuclei of the other cells. Those would be the glial cells. Those would be the glial cells. Glial cells are supporting cells, like astrocytes forms the BBB, ependymal cells forms the CSF, oligodendrocytes and the Schwann cells, they form the myelin, right? Okay, enough of the brain. Let's move on. Okay, over here, we have an ear, and A is the auditory canal. Sound comes in like this. Auditory canal. B is the semicircular canal. And C over here, eustachian tube. The function is to help equalize the pressure within the head from the surrounding environment. It's normally closed, but when you swallow, it opens up. Over here, D, we have the vestibulocochlear nerve. It's actually two nerves that are kind of merged together. The vestibular nerve carries information from the vestibule related to body acceleration, speeding up, slowing down, falling down. Whereas the cochlear nerve is going to send auditory information from the cochlea. E is the cochlea. F is the tympanic membrane. All right. 3 semicircular canal here. This one is the anterior. It's for nodding of the head. Detects nodding of the head. This one is posterior. Is for detecting tilting your head to the side. If you try to touch your head, touch your shoulder with your head, that kind of movement, tilting of the head. And then this one is the lateral. It's for shaking your head. The middle ear, uh, the one that with this big knob that makes it looks like a hammer, that is the malleus. Right next to the malleus is the um, incus or anvil. The stapes is broken on this model. This model is really old. It's like, 25 years old. This is the muscle that I was telling you about. Remember, there are muscles that would connect to the ossicles, and the muscles help dampen the sound if it's too loud, collectively known as ossicles. And Z is the tympanic membrane, which converts sound into movements. Ossicles. So again, you see this big knob. Um, that would be like the hammer or the malleus, and the incus at the back, and this is the stapes. And what is it connected to? It's connected to the oval window on the cochlea. Label as many parts as you can. Yeah, we can do that. Maybe I'll just do it verbally, all right? Because I don't want to write out all of the stuff again. Over here, semicircular canal. Semicircular canal. Cochlea here. You know what? It's okay. I'll write it out. That's the nerve I was talking about. Vestibulocochlear nerve. This is the vestibule. And again, the vestibule is going to detect uh, vertical drops, for example. That's the function of the saccule. And then for horizontal movement, that's the function of the utricle. Malleus, incus, stapi. Tympanic membrane. Ear canal over here with the sound coming in. I think that's all we can label. Okay, eyeball. A is sorry. A is the sclera. B is the choroid. And C is the retina. You can see the muscle attaching on the sclera, helping you to move the eyeball. Once you open up the eyeball, you can see the vitreous humor right here. D over here at the front, that's the cornea. And stated function of the virtuous humor, it reinforces the shape of eyeball. That's where the floaters are going to be, okay? It's floating around in your field of view. Um, this is the optic nerve. As you know, from the optic nerve, it goes to the optic chiasma, and then it becomes the optic tract, goes to the thalamus for filtering, and then finally occipital lobe. Where the optic nerve is exiting, you're gonna have no photoreceptor. So that's the blind spot, aka optic disc. Of course, all these stuff right here, that's part of the retina. Next to the blind spot over here, that is the macular plus the fovea on the inside, which of course produce sharp image for what we're looking at. Eye over here, that is the ciliary muscle. It controls the tightness of the suspensory ligaments, which in turn controls the shape of the lens. Helps regulate the shape and thickness of lens, which is important in visual accommodation. Okay, so over here, it means if light strikes on this position, you're not going to be able to see it. That's why we had the blind spot. Remember in class we had a slide with the plus and the circle and the dot. Like you won't be able to see the dot if you close one of the eyes, and that's where the optic nerve is going to be. So the nerve doesn't have any receptor. That's the problem. There's no receptor here. It's just all cables, so to speak. Okay, it's just all neurons going through, and all these neurons is collecting information from like basically the whole eyeball, but it itself does not have any detectors, so it cannot see the light, so to speak. But it's transmitting all the information from everywhere else. Okay. I guess one, if you're confused, think of it as a solar panel, okay? Solar panel. This is solar panel. And then all the solar panel is going to be receiving the light, and that e electricity is going to get transmitted through the cable, right? But when you shine light onto the cable, it does nothing because the cable has no solar panel. In the similar sense, the optic nerve is like the cable. There's no receptor to pick up the light, but it's transmitting the light energy, transmitting the light information. This is just another eye. What is found in number two? Number two over here is the aqueous humor, which nourishes the cornea and the lens. The clouding of the lens is called cataracts. Obviously, you can identify other stuff as well. I'm not going to do it, but you should. Okay. Optic disc here, optic nerve, so on and so forth. Okay, this is the head. Uh, lots of stuff here. I'm not going to write it down, but I'll go through it with you. Um, the video is really, really useful. Okay, you can watch that. Number 4 is the cerebrum. Number 5, corpus callosum, lateral ventricle here, thalamus. 7 is the pons. 6 is the cerebellum. Okay, I think you guys have no problem with this. I've been telling you all day what they are, right? This one here is the medulla oblongata transitioning into the spinal cord. I would say this is spinal cord because it's already in the spine. You see, these are the backbones, right? This is spinal cord right here. Nasal cavity, hard palate. We learned that last class. Hard palate is consists of 2 bones, right? The maxilla plus palatine. Soft palate is number 12. And then we have the uvula. Not sure why the letter J is there. It's probably from the previous slide. I forgot to erase it. 14 is the adenoid tonsil. Uh, this is from the like the previous unit, so maybe don't worry too much about it. This is the thyroid gland, right? Hyoid bone. Uh, the larynx, and then the superior, middle, and inferior lobe of the lungs. Yeah, don't worry too much about this. This is just like a more like a review for you. Back to the digestive system now. 35 is the pancreas. Uh, you can see the spleen right here. Spleen. Transverse colon. Over here is the small intestine, second part, which is jejunum. So transverse colons carry the stuff across, and then it's actually going to come down here. So 42, that is the descending colon. Is this a repeat? It looks like a repeat. All right, so let's keep going. There's more videos for you to see. Lots of more information here. It's all labeled. You should compare this with the ones that we did yesterday or last class in class. Um, just familiarize yourself with all the structures in here. Some of the stuff we didn't talk about, so like, don't worry about the fixtures here. But I think everything else we've covered. Stomach. All right. That's the esophagus, cardiac sphincter, the actual stomach with the foldings. The foldings are the rugae, right? And don't forget, like these are the rugae, but then every now and then you're gonna have a really, really deep, deep pits. Okay. So that's the gastric pit. And at the bottom is the gastric gland, right? And located in the glands, you have various cells. Okay, like the chief cells and the parietal cells. Just refreshing your memory is all. Down here is the pyloric sphincter. This is a duodenum. I'll post all these for you. A is the liver, gallbladder, duodenum, and pancreas. Pancreas secretes pancreatic juice. And in the pancreatic juice, we have two important things, NaHCO3 and digestive enzymes. So NaHCO3 is going to neutralize the chyme coming from the stomach. Digestive enzymes, we have various examples, amylase, lactase, pepsin, trypsin, uh, lipase, right, which help breaks down the various macromolecules, right? Liver in the context of digestive system, it will uh, produce bile, whereas the gallbladder stores bile. What does bile do? Okay, this is fat, and then the bile will make it into the smaller droplets. The word is emulsification. Identify the four layers of the GI tract in the esophagus. So the innermost layer right here, this part, you trace it all the way around. That would be the mucosa. Mucosa. And then outside of it, this part right here, all this part right here, okay, that would be the submucosa with the blood vessels, nerves, lymphatic vessels. And then outside of that, this whole layer here, you actually can see two layers, right? One here, one here. That is the muscularis. In the esophagus, there is only circular on the inside and longitudinal on the outside, and that creates the peristalsis, the wave-like contractions that pushes the food along the GI tract. Don't forget the stomach has an additional layer inside. It's called the oblique layer. And finally, we have the serosa on the outside. Okay, small intestine. Identify the four layers once again. This was a little bit harder to see, but you will once again have the mucosa, and the mucosa is just the surface layer. This is where the food is going to be, right? What does the oblique layer do? Oblique is twist and turn, okay, for the stomach. Okay, the food will be moving by. So that's the muscularis right here. Sorry, mucosa rather. Mucosa. The submucosa, again, it's a little bit harder to see, but it's right here. Right, that's the submucosa coming in. Like that. This part right here. Submucosa. And inside the submucosa is where you will have, and we labeled this last time, you will have the lacteo, which helps absorb fat and takes it to the liver. Other nutrients are absorbed directly into the blood, but fat is going to travel through the lacteo and gets processed in the liver first because it cannot mix directly with the blood. Okay, and over here you have the muscularis. Actually, all the way out here, that's the muscularis. The submucosa actually also includes this. You can see that this is the blood vessels. Blood vessels. There's still blood in it. Okay? There might be a vein right here, and then another blood vessel. So this whole blue thing extending upwards, that's the submucosa, and then you have the mucosa. And finally, the outermost layer, that's the serosa. Okay. Same thing. We have this slide in the notes. I can go through it quickly. PC is the circular fold. ME is the muscularis. L is the lacteo. V is the villi, submucosa and mucosa, right? The tongue. Which side is the surface of the tongue? It's over here. This is surface. This is where the food will be passing through. Each of these cylindrical things, that's the papilla. And on the side of the papilla, that's where you will find the taste bud. Is that the last line? That's it. That's the last line. Okay, that's all. Thank you guys for sticking, bearing with me. Um, please study hard for the test, which is on Friday, and don't forget to do the lab today. Okay, if you have any additional question, feel free to email me. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. All right, have a good one, guys. Thank you.